who weren't able to jump on can maybe watch this later. But so we're going to go ahead and just jump right into the income goal worksheet. And this is a really great exercise. Let me share my screen here.
Wes, I'm just going to mute everyone, and then everyone unmute as needed, just so we don't have
Muted.
noise. Wes, you're muted. Sorry. You just need to unmute.
Unmuted.
There we go. Now we're back in business. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you this income goal worksheet. That's a really great tool that you can utilize for setting your goals. And this is pretty much mathematically correct. So you guys often hear us talking about that, you know, every contact should result in one appointment. And if you're setting so many appointments, then you're going to be able to retain a certain number of those appointments and close a certain number of those appointments. But a lot of times we just kind of get started and we don't realize the method behind the madness or why we've got to set a certain number of appointments. And so several years back, we created this goal planning worksheet, which allows you to basically plug in your income goal for the year, and then it kind of does the math and calculates everything else. And I just want to kind of go through how this worksheet works, the science behind it, the formulas behind it, so you can kind of really understand that if you create and you set these goals, that you're going to easily be able to know what you need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to be able to reach those goals. So you can see here that there's nothing in this spreadsheet at this point. I'm going to just go ahead and plug in that in 2021, this is the only number that you need to change is this one right here at the bottom. The rest of these are all already calculated. So I'm going to say that I want to earn $75,000 in 2021. If I put in 75,000 there and just hit the enter button, this is now going to kind of break everything out based upon just averages. So as you can see, your income goal per pay period. So this is going to be every week that your income goal is going to be $1,562. Your monthly income goal is $6,250. And of course, if you're hitting those numbers, then your annual income is going to be $75,000. This is based also on an 8% average commission. So if we look at our average age of about 70 years old, and that depending upon what your product mix is, but as a company, we do about 60% single pay and about 40% modal pay right now. And so that kind of gives you an idea that we're about an 8% average commission. So in order to make $75,000, that's going to be about $937,000 in sales volume. Okay? And then this is going to just kind of break it down a little bit more for you. What you need to do on basically, this is based upon these standards. So you can, for every 10 contacts that you make, you're going to set one appointment. Then we have the appointment to presentation ratio, which is basically, we figure, and this is of course based on your guys's weekly productivity sheets that you're turning in, but about 80% of our appointments that we set stick. So that means that 20% of all of our appointments are not going to stick. And that's pretty standard, that about 1 in 5 don't stick. And so you have to account for that when you're setting appointments, understanding that if you don't set enough appointments, you're not going to hit your income goal, because you're going to have one-leggers, you're going to have people that have changed their mind, they call and cancel. So this is based upon an 80% retention of all the appointments that you set. And then we go to our closing percentage, which is about 40% collectively as a group. Now this, again, you guys, is where your personal numbers can make a difference here, because you might have a little bit higher appointment to presentation ratio. You might have a little bit higher closing percentage. These are numbers that we could actually change based upon your weekly productivity sheet. So if you're sending those in each week, you're going to have your own contact to appointment ratio. You're going to have your own appointment to presentation ratio. You're going to have your own closing percentage, and we can plug those numbers in, and your activity is going to change just a little bit based upon that. So then we have your average income per sale, and then your average income value per contact. This is one I think is really interesting, that sometimes we feel like that we're maybe making a lot of phone calls and we're talking to a lot of people, but because you've got to make 10 contacts to set one appointment, that means 9 of your contacts are likely telling you that now is not a good time and they're putting you off down the road. But every time that you have a conversation on the phone with somebody, based upon mathematics here, you're making a little over $50. So because eventually you're going to set an appointment, you're going to close a sale, and then you divide all of those contacts that you've made by the amount of commission that you earned, and you can easily then kind of say to yourself, each time I talk to somebody on the phone, it is creating income. It doesn't mean that that person is buying, but there's an average income value per contact. And then we have the average volume per sell, and where that comes from is that our average contract, again, this is going to change for you as well. So this is a number that you can look at your averages of what you've done for the year. That's something you can pull off of your homesteader's dashboard, but you can look at what your average sell is and change this number. But this is what it is collectively as a group. The average policy amount, so this is each individual policy, the average policy amount for our entire company is $5,800. So that is the average amount of a policy. This is assuming that about 50% of your appointments are sold with 2 people. So that means we're going to have an average volume per sale. So this is average volume per appointment that is going to be about $8,700. And that's about 1.5 of your average contract, because many of your appointments that you're going out on are with 2 people. So you're writing 2 policies. So your average policy per sale is about $8,700. It takes into account all of these calculations, and then it breaks it down for you of what you've got to do on a daily basis. So in order to make $75,000 in income based upon these standards, you have to make 13 contacts every day. This is what the computer is calculating for you. Then you take this goal sheet and maybe you want to write in a different daily goal for you personally. So if I want to make $75,000, I'm going to probably, maybe I'll round that up, but I want to talk to 15 people every single day. Of course, it's saying that you have to set 1.3 appointments every day. Well, it's hard to set 0.3 appointments. So obviously you might want to round that up. So shooting for 2 appointments every day. Obviously, if you round that up, you're going to exceed your income goal. You want to at least be in front of 1 family every day. And then you can set a new goal based upon that. And then you're going to close. Obviously, you can't close a half a sale every day, but you're basically looking at closing at least 1 sale every 2 days if you're following these primary factors here. It is going to break it down by the week, which is going to make it a little bit easier as far as what you need to do each week. But this is now 64.8 contacts every week. You need to set a minimum of 6 appointments. You need to run and give 5 presentations every week. And those who have been in this business can tell you that if you're running 5 presentations consistently every single week, you will make or exceed $75,000 in income. Okay? And then we're going to close 2.1 sales per week. And that's going to work out to be the income that you need, which is right here. If you take the 696 times 2.1 sales, that's going to give you $1,562 in income for that particular week. So let's see what happens. So if we change this just a little bit, let's say that I made $75,000 last year, and this year I want to make a little bit more. Let's say I want to have a $100,000 year this year. I want to make a 6-figure income. So we plug in $100,000 here. Things actually, what's so cool about this is that because of the compound effect, things don't change that much. So obviously your income is going to go up a little bit each week. Nothing really changes here, right? Unless your numbers are different based upon your productivity sheet, but everything else is going to stay the same. But all we're doing to increase our income by 25% is obviously increasing our activity by 25%. So now we're looking at a minimum of 17 contacts per day. So that's where, when we're using things like our 20 conversations a day for $20 bonuses, things like that, that we're really basically trying to put you guys in a category that if you do that on a consistent basis, that you're going to earn $100,000 income. So again, all this went up is, I think the original one was about 13 contacts. So making an additional 4 or 5 contacts per day is going to increase your income significantly. We're now getting up to setting close to 2 appointments every day, trying to run, 1.5 presentations. Obviously, that's not a number that works, so you have to do at least 2, and then you can kind of break it down by the week. So this is where your productivity sheet, again, is so important, is that you can then track if you're actually on pace to hit your income goal. So if you're not setting 8 appointments per week, you're probably not going to be getting into this income goal bracket that you need to be able to make $100,000. And now we're going to run about 8 appointments. We're going to set about 9 appointments. We're going to run about 7 appointments. We're going to close about 3 of those appointments, which we basically took that from 2 closed sales to 3 closed sales a week, just by slightly increasing our contact activity. And we're going to be now in the $100,000 income goal. So, you guys have any questions or thoughts based upon what I've shared with the productivity goal worksheet? I'm going to be sending this to the whole team immediately after the call so that you can basically do this on your own. And what I would highly recommend is that you fill this out, you complete it, and you print it out, maybe even print out 2 or 3 copies and put it in multiple places so that you have a reminder every single day of your activity goals. But do you guys have any thoughts on this at all?
Who hasn't used this or seen this? You'll have to unmute yourselves, by the way. Sorry, we muted everyone, but is there anyone that's seeing this for the first time? Okay, got a few hands. Okay, great.
Is this something that you guys see as something that would be a helpful tool for you? So many times we just kind of start the week and we don't have any goals in mind. Like, what is my goal for this week? I'm just going to do the best that I can. Now, if you follow this pattern, keep in mind too that you're obviously not tracking things like walk-ins and call-ins and stuff like that. This is all self-generated activity. So when you have the gravy, which is what we like to call the walk-ins and the call-ins, it's obviously going to increase on top of this. So it really kind of puts us in a trap sometimes, because occasionally you might have a really good week with activity that, or sales that come to you through walk-in and call-in and things like that, and we slow down on our activity, and that's going to then kind of put us behind. So that's the gravy. That's the reward for hard work. The harder you work, the luckier you get. And if you follow this method of trying to always stay on top of your contacts, keeping track of them on your weekly productivity sheet, turning that in so that we can then have your numbers that are personalized to you. Some of you have lower averages than this. Some of you have much higher averages as well. So if you put in your numbers, you're going to really have a great idea of what you need to do on a weekly basis. Or on a daily basis, because that's really what it's got to come down to, is what you do on a daily basis. So I
unmuted everyone because I muted everyone earlier. Sorry, Wes, to cut you off, but I
think
a few people.
Go ahead.
Thoughts or questions first?
One thing I was just going to say is that the daily calls often get...
Turn right.
Oh.
Someone's got their navigation on.
Somebody's driving. Yeah. What I was going to say is that sometimes the daily calls feel like such a burden and like they don't pay off, where seeing this, that, you know, that each call is worth $50 or, you know, whatever it comes out to with the numbers, it really gives motivation.
US 151, then turn right.
Someone's driving, if they can mute.
Keep
yeah,
right.
It's Melissa. I'm sorry. I don't know how to do this. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead, Spencer, and then I can try to mute.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that it helps really to motivate so that those calls don't seem so burdensome. And as you have this, as Wes said, printed out and put places, it's really going to give you that visual reminder to continue those calls and to be productive. And so it can be a real motivator just seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, I'll mute everyone again. Just unmute yourselves, but we'd love to hear.
Muted.
Just, there we go. The thing, I used this a lot when I started, and the reason I liked it, you know, I tend to get emotional and I'd get wrapped up if I had a rough day or a rough week, or I felt like I was getting discouraged. I just focused on the process because the numbers are what they are. So if I know how many conversations I have to set an appointment, I might get the one guy per year that's just super rude or doesn't ever want to talk to me again. And I feel like, gosh, this just isn't working. Or I have someone, I had a really good presentation and they didn't buy. And I feel like, oh, I don't want to keep making the calls. It takes all the emotion out of it, because it is what it is. The numbers work out across the board with everyone without exception. So it was nice for me because it let me just focus on this. This was kind of my roadmap, so to speak. And if I just focused on the numbers, the rest of it all worked itself out.
Erin, this is
Wes.
Diana.
Hey, Diana.
I think it's important for the new people to distinguish between calls and conversations.
Oh, that's a great point. Yes. So we find as a group, and this is pretty consistent, even the newest people, if you're following the scripts, you will set one appointment for every 10 conversations. So people say, well, how many dials do I need to make? Your guess is as good as ours. It depends what time of day. It depends the weather. It depends on the moon cycle. I don't know. Sometimes you make 20 phone calls and you'll talk to 10 people. Sometimes it's 80 phone calls to talk to 10 people. We don't track dials. We track conversations. That's a really good point, Diana. But on average, if you follow the scripts, if you're not getting one appointment set for every 10 conversations, please call one of us. It's usually something very small, and I promise we won't be mean to you about it, because we've heard it, we've done it ourselves. It's just tweaking something very small in our scripting or our tone. But as you get better, that eventually turns to 2 to 3 appointments for every 10 conversations. And then it kind of starts from there. West, you're muted.
Unmuted.
The phrase for 2020, you're on mute.
If Erin would quit muting me, I'd be a lot better off. But it's pretty much a normal thing. In fact, occasionally when we're talking in person, she'll say, "You're muted, West." So I'm not sure what that means, but so this is, once you've kind of broken down your goals kind of based upon this, a really good way to, I mean, this is something you need to have at your desk, but I've seen this many times before, is once you've established what your daily contact goal is, a really great reminder is then to print something like this. And it's on your desk, it's in your face every single day that if you make your 18 contacts every day, you're going to hit your income goal. And this is just a really good reminder, nice and big on a piece of paper, have it laminated or whatever you want to do, but just have this at your desk as a reminder of what has to be done on a daily basis to be able to hit your income goal. This is how you just simplify things. What do I have to do every single day? And then keep track of this, right? Keep track of those conversations. We have the the daily power prospecting page where we're tracking your conversations each day. We have one that has 6 days on that sheet where you can actually track this every day. And then you know that you're on pace. You know you're on track. Of course, the great thing about this, you guys, is the more contacts you make, the more people you talk to. The cool thing about this is the better that you get on the telephone. So if you're only making 3, 4, 5 contacts each day, you're only getting as good as the number of contacts that you make. You're going to be more comfortable every time you pick up the phone. It's going to be easier if you're doing it on a daily and a consistent basis. So those are the things we wanted to share from a goal standpoint. The last thing too, just as you're getting ready and maybe you're thinking about some of your goals for next year, I'll send this out as well. But one of the things I've always kind of liked is just something that's really, really simple for setting goals. Obviously, you just don't want to have work goals. So this is one that I've always kind of liked. It's basically goals based upon the 5 F's. And a real simple way to kind of break down your goals, especially if it's not something that you've done on a consistent basis, but writing down a few goals. But I've always liked the 5 F's, which is family and friends. Obviously, that group is extremely important. Your finance and your work goals, your fun goals. We all got to have fun goals. We got to have rewards, taking trips, going on vacations, things that you're going to do for fun. Put those in your goals of things that maybe you want to do on a weekly basis to just kind of escape and to reset, but they're really important. Of course, if you're a person of faith, you're going to have goals that have to do with your faith and your own personal spiritual growth. And then, of course, your fitness goals as well. And what I've typically recommended and what helps for me personally is to not overdo it here, not have a goals that are, 4 or 5 pages long, but in each of these categories, you're going to have 1 to 3 things that you're going to do on a daily basis in each of these 5 categories that you know that you can do. So it's great to have a stretch goal, but if you just write down, each day I'm going to take a walk for 20 minutes, and that's the one goal that you have for your fitness goal, then that's good enough, right? Because that's a great start. Time you want to spend with your family, doing activities and things like that, something you can do on a daily basis. Maybe that's, for me, my drive home from work a lot of times is just reaching out to friends and family on the phone. I got a 45-minute drive. So I've kind of always had a goal to try to call one person in my family on my drive home each day to have a 10, 15-minute conversation on my drive home. Obviously, your finance and work goals, having fun goals, and then things that are faith-based as well. So that gives you a really, in my opinion, a really good balanced life that you've got goals in all of those 5 areas. Any thoughts on that?
Well, we were talking in the office. We've got the fitness. We're in the best shape of our lives after 2020, so we don't need to worry about that. Just kidding. That's a joke. It's the opposite. So I don't know if anyone else has struggled with that this year, but we're going to focus on that, right? Get back in shape. Okay. So, and thank you, Michael, for the shout out on my IT support. Yeah, he was having some audio issues with his computer, and I said, have you restarted it? And that worked. So, Kathy, I'm glad I got that.
I felt like an idiot.
I'm
but
usually
yeah.
the last person you want to ask.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Any other thoughts on this before we're going to kind of transition just into one other thing here? Okay, West will send this out. Please take a minute and look at it. It'll also help you categorize maybe some areas you feel like you could use some help. Like, I don't have enough contacts. I don't have enough people to talk to. We could help with that. I'm not generating enough appointments. I'm not seeing enough people, or I'm not closing enough sales. So usually it's one of those, and regardless of what the challenge is, I promise we can help. So take some time and let us know what we can do to help there. So Sherry Laura, who's in St. George, Utah, she's south of us about 4 hours, sent us a really nice email that she had rewatched our training videos. And I'm just gonna have her share real quick, and then I'm gonna share my screen with you guys. I'll have Wes switch over presenter. But Sherry, do you wanna kind of just chat briefly with the team about kind of what your thoughts were on that?
Well, I was asked, what did I learn? I said I need to learn a little more. The videos are really excellent. It's a really, really good review. And particularly for someone, I still consider myself fairly new, because I started right literally when the whole world shut down this year. And it was kind of hard to kind of reboot and get back into, what do we do? And when we started making phone calls and things like that. But one of the things that I think is really good is it's not, I think one of the quotes was, it's not, consistency is more important than perfection. And so, but the more you do something, the better you're going to get at it also. And so, making those phone calls, which that is not, I got to say, is not my favorite thing. I mean, and not that I don't like talking on the phone. I can do it. I'm fine. Not a big deal. But it's just like, I would much rather be out face to face with somebody. I'd love to be more able to get my contacts that way than to like phone call. So, but I know that that's the only way I'm going to be good at this. So, there's a lot of things that were brought up, and one of them was making sure that you have a relationship with the funeral directors. And I think that what's hard is maybe some people have a different situation or dynamic where they're at, where they're literally with the funeral directors more. I don't have that here. I mean, even where I make phone calls is completely separated from, nobody would ever come upstairs and see where I'm at. And so that's one of the things that's like, boy, I sort of feel like I'm bothering them just to approve my contract, let alone have a relationship with them. So that I thought was kind of an interesting piece of the puzzle, that maybe each person's actual situation at the mortuary that they're at is different. And another thing that I learned was how important aftercare is. It's kind of really scared me, it's not something that I would say that I've done a really great job at, but listening to Heather's information about what's done and when it's done and why it's done, and some of the experiences that other people have had. And again, because I started when we had this whole virus thing, I've never sat in on an at-need presentation. So I've not developed any type of relationship with anyone. And so it's just completely a cold call when I do call. They don't know me from hiding their hair. So there was just some really good things, but somebody who's been in the business for 10, 15 years, 5 years, whatever, it's not important. But for myself, still consider myself kind of a newbie. It was a really, really good review. Does it take some time to go through them? Yeah, it does. But I think it was definitely worth it. And, it was actually kind of a good time over the holiday, because, it's like, hey, I got a few hours here. I'll just, sit and listen to these. So I literally cannot say enough about the Envision team. I have never in my 150 years of being employed ever had support that I get from Envisions. And I think I might have mentioned to Aaron before, it was kind of like, I'm not used to this. It's like, almost like you're smothering, but it is really good. So for, Kristen, who apparently is brand new, this really is a great team, and they will support you, and they won't yell at you or write you. And Erin's the most patient person I know, and so she's great. But so that's
thanks, Sherry. We're going to send you the check for your testimonial.
Okay, awesome. I'll be looking for it. The check is in the mail.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate all of you. I know I say this every week. This really is a highlight. I don't know what that says about me, but like one of the highlights of my week. But just seeing all of you, we really, truly do love and care about each of you and your commitment. And Sherry, just your willingness, and we see this with so many of you, to be accountable, to be vulnerable, to be open about shortcomings and what you have to work on, and what you've grown, where you've grown, and what you've learned. I think just sharing that with each other, I think throughout this whole year, if you look back at the beginning of the pandemic, remember we were on every single day. And I think if nothing else, just emotionally knowing you're not alone, that hasn't changed. Some of you are in unique situations. We do have less opportunity right now to have that connection with the funeral directors, for example, but talking to each other about, hey, how are you kind of working this out? But we're always impressed at your ability to have that self-reflection. And we do appreciate that. And I will try not to smother anyone. I'm aware of that tendency. So we'll change my title to National Smothering Director. So, yeah.
I'm just not used to all that TLC.
Well, I think it takes a minute. You have to look at, what's our motivation. I think when we really are just trying to help. Sometimes at first it's a little off-putting. Why are you calling me so much? But just checking in on you guys. So yeah, thanks, Sherry. Anything else? I'm going to share just the link to the videos. Did anyone else want to jump in? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Feel free to jump in if you want. So as a reminder, this is what Sherry was talking about. She made a comment about people maybe that have been here 10 or 15 years. This is stuff that has worked for, I mean, West has been doing this for what, 22 years? Or is it like 150 years like Sherry? It's a long time.
It feels like it sometimes.
Yeah. But, you know, we're not here to reinvent the wheel. We improve the wheel and we try to, you know, get close to perfection on the wheel, but what works, works. And these are the basics and the fundamentals about what works. So most of you have seen versions of each of these, but just to get a refresher, it talks about just the introduction. There's an interview with a 20-year veteran, client development. Maybe you're kind of, gosh, you know, I feel like I don't have enough people to talk to. Maybe you could watch that. Prospecting. As Sherry said, that's, you know, if we're honest, that's our least favorite part. The reward is that face-to-face meeting. Well, how do we get those face-to-face meetings and visits? Well, we got to pick up the phone and make the calls. So kind of talking about the mindset around that, about why families pre-plan, what to expect your first year. So as you, those of you that have started this last year, kind of setting an honest and realistic expectation about what those first few months, 6 months, 12 months are going to look like. Closing, everyone likes that. There's a lot of really helpful information in there about closing, finding consistency. Heather does a really great recap here of the aftercare program. And then just kind of a success mindset. And then Wes just added this National Veteran Benefit Call. So a lot of great information there in the training videos. And as Sherry said, you can sort of watch them on your own time. I'll have Wes, when he sends out the goal worksheet, resend that link. And then we have a whole YouTube channel. We have some really ridiculous videos if you want to see us actually on camera doing some videos, but some really neat pre-need pro tips. Those are short 2 to 3 minute, 4 minute videos about different topics. And then there's all of our trainings that we've done since we started: lead nurturing, closing with confidence, you know, how often should you follow up? So you can kind of look through all of these. And if there is a topic that you don't see listed here that you would like some training on, or maybe you saw the training but you'd like a different approach, please let us know. We're always interested in kind of what you guys want to learn about. That's what we're here for. So some really helpful insights here. Any thoughts or questions from anyone about this? Oh, Spencer's muted. Hold on, let me unmute everyone real quick. Okay, I think you're unmuted.
I'm on my phone, so nobody can ever hear me. I would have participated more, but it really is a great tool and resource. The videos have a lot of different topics on there, particularly this portal here. Really great stuff. And Sherry said, you know, for a lot of the veterans, it may not be as applicable. I would actually beg to differ that I think it's just as, if not more applicable, because sometimes we need to circle back to our roots, and that's what's really going to get us to be successful. And so it's, again, those small and simple things that sometimes we forget. And so I would encourage everybody to take the time. If you have 10 minutes, just watch one of the videos.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really pleased to see when Aaron brought that up. It looks like they are being watched more and more. I don't know what the views were a few weeks back, but to see that, you know, that group of 18 videos has had 765 views means that you guys are taking the time to jump on there and to watch these. So, you know, I couldn't just encourage you more. It really, I mean, one of the things that I've always said that if you rely solely on us for your training and growth, then you're selling yourself short. There's only so much we can do. There's so much time that we have, and we've got a big team, and we put these tools out there so that you guys can go out there on your own schedule, and watch the videos. And so I just really encourage you to take the time to do that. And quite honestly, there's a lot more out there from just pure selling perspective. So if you're kind of new and it just like sales, or maybe you make comments sometimes like I'm just not really a salesperson and things like that, just know that most of the greatest salespeople that are out there would probably initially say, you know, I'm not really a salesperson, but because they like people and they're empathetic and they're good listeners, they become good salespeople. And that doesn't, I mean, there are probably in our entire group, there's probably 1 in 20 that what we maybe call a naturally born salesperson. The rest of you and the rest of us, we've had to work at being good at this. It does not just happen. you can't really make that determination. Oh, I'm lousy on the phone. I don't like high pressure closing. We have all these negative things that we say about our abilities. But if you really learn about sales, people aren't high pressure closers. They aren't that typical cliche salesperson. They're genuinely people who want to help someone else solve a problem. And that's what we really are, is we're problem solvers. And so just know that if there's something you struggle with, that there are answers out there, whether it's in our videos or a TED Talk or a book that you can listen to. Something that we really want to focus on in 2021 is just making sure that all of you have the tools and resources. But a lot of it does require for you to go out on your own time and to continue to develop your skills. So, these tools are really available to make you and help you be more successful. And again, even if you've been doing this for 20 years, you're going to find something in there that you may have heard before, but you've forgotten. And that's one thing that I always noticed about selling, is that sometimes I would hear something at a convention or something, and I'd say to myself, man, I used to do that. Well, why did I used to do something at work, but I don't do it anymore? Right? It's just because we create different habits, and sometimes we forget the things that really worked for us personally, and we try something different. And sometimes just going back to the basics is the only thing that we need to be able to get things going back in the right.
Yep. Absolutely. Michael,
Yeah,
are you going to say something?
I want to piggyback on what Wes said. I think almost everything that I know I learned from somebody else as far as being a good salesperson. So I wasn't naturally born into it, but I've had great managers in the past. I work currently with a great team of managers and people above me, as well as you guys. I learned from all of you. On these calls, when I shadow appointments with counselors, new and old. So yeah, I'm always learning, and I think that's part of life in general, as well as our career. So just never stop doing that. So
absolutely. Okay, guys, that pretty much wraps things up. We're trying to keep these around 45 minutes now. We really, truly appreciate y'all being on the call. We'll send out the Go Income worksheet. Send a video link with that as well. So that is, by the way, that is an unlisted link. The individual meetings are out there. You can watch those at any time, but the training videos, you have to have the link to get to those. And so you'll obviously, if you were to go and just search Envision Strategic Partners, only some of our videos are going to come up. The pre-need sales training is an unlisted private link that you have to click on that link to get to those. So with that being said, though, you guys, thanks so much. Hope you all had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and be safe coming up on your New Year's. But have a lot of fun, and let's all bring in the new year and put this year of 2020 behind us. What do you think of that?
Sounds perfect.
yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Happy New Year,
Happy New
everybody.
Year.
All right.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Take care.
I'll talk to you soon.
Have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.